And Monica, you have some thoughts about where that may be going? Or?
Yeah, that was, I said the challenge is, especially in a really unstructured piece of content today, how it might possibly be, somebody might be looking for it tomorrow. When we did new employee orientation, I actually got to introduce myself to the CEO at Land O'Lakes. And all I had to do was say, blah, 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 content management, and his eyes lit up and he went, oh, that is such an untapped strategic asset for us, and we really need to get our hands around it better. And the fact that you're here is an indicator that we're trying to do that. And I thought, A, yay, and B, no pressure. But, I sit down with business units and I try to talk them through how do you want, what kind of metadata, first you have to explain metadata tags versus folder renaming to them and explain the difference. And then you have to explain to them why, okay, now that you can put more than one tag on something, putting 24 tags on something is not necessarily the way to go either. But man, to me the next leap in the technology will be when all somebody has to do is click on a piece of content and say this is either worth saving or it's not worth saving. Or, in a given organization, you pick the default. In state government, everything by default is a record. So you would want users to just simply click on the stuff that isn't a record and say this can be disposed of, this can be disposed of. In our organization, we're not terribly litigious, and we're highly regulated, but on mostly on the producer side. So our default is it's not a record unless it is. So you could just have somebody literally or auto categorization that you can get enough intelligence into these systems that they can pull your content and figure out what actually is worth keeping, and then auto-categorize it so that it can be used for its purpose today and also reused for some unknown purpose in the future. When I was at the state of Minnesota, nobody had any idea that we would ever need to go through all of our healthcare claims and figure out which ones were related to cigarette smoking. And what a massive undertaking that was for those poor people in healthcare to be able to repurpose all of that content based on that completely new, never theorized use of the information. So that's what we got to get to the point where that's what we're driving towards.
Yeah. You're in I imagine, fairly unusual position of having your CEO actually understand the value or the strategic nature of this. I'm curious for the rest of you. In general, would you say your organizations understand the strategic value of content management and the value of the assets that they have?
I think at Moody's, maybe he doesn't understand the context of ECM, but he definitely understands the context of compliance. And for example, we have some customers who come in and they're issuing a 30-year bond, which means every document we create, we have to save for 30 years. And so how do you know how to retrieve it, and the technology changes, and et cetera, et cetera. So definitely at the top of their mind in terms of having very good control of when to store, when to dispose, and then, keeping a handle on that, but definitely with the regulatory hat on.
So Tom, would you say that in your organization people get it, or you have spent a lot of time explaining it?
Well, I think people get it, right? They don't know that Tom Showalter runs it, maybe, right? That they understand that there's a centralized, or that these documents are important, and being able to get at them and being able to produce them when required is absolutely paramount, right? So, our CIO, our CEO, both, I believe, absolutely understand how important the content management, and again, they probably don't know it's called content management, right? They know it's the ability to produce a document that the regulators or a customer wants when they want it, and at as low a cost as we possibly can do it. That's what they understand about it, and they know that somebody is in charge of that, and it needs to be done well.
How about you, Cindy?
Well, pre-December 2006, not so much. But now our president, after he saw his paper scattered, does understand it and get it, along with everyone else. Again, prior to that, it's like, well, Cindy looking for something else to put into the enterprise and have us manage. Who will ever need this? I got the filing cabinet. I'll get my secretary to get that document. So, after that, there was the awareness was raised significantly. Now, worldwide campus, they've always had that awareness because of the accessibility and the ability to take care of a student, whether he shows up at the Fort Bragg teaching site or he shows up in Louisiana, a teaching site there. They could still pull up that student's records and all the source documents and see what the transcript said, the actual transcripts and the image. So they understood it for a while, but for the core centralized office where everything was close, it took a disaster to really raise their awareness. And now they're keenly aware of it. Unfortunately, they look at what Monica just mentioned, they want that dream world. Can't you just take this document and figure it out? Why do I have to tell you, what other things they search on? I don't know how to search on it. Can't you figure it out for me? And so it's that education and working with them to help them understand how you file it and how you tag it so you can search it out at a later point. And another point that I haven't heard too much about is e-discovery and making sure that we can pull things out if there's a litigation or something going on. That's something that our president is now becoming a little more aware of because our lawyers are giving him a lot of education on the importance of being able to do that. So it's something that, in a nonprofit higher ed environment, we haven't traditionally thought a lot about, but in the past few years, it's become more and more urgent that we understand how to do that.
Well, it's definitely the first time I've heard of a tornado as a business management technique, but anyway.